Hello, everybody. Okay, so we were on marriage and we were talking about communication. So, my conversation on communication part two is listening. Are you listening to one another? Are you just so busy trying to get your point across that you are forgetting to listen? Listening is a big part of communication. Now, I know when I'm listening and I know when I'm not, and I'll turn a person off in a minute. But I know to turn it on when I need to make a person understand that I'm listening. I understand. And even though I don't agree with you, I do understand what you're saying. You have to be able to have that conversation. You have to be able to listen to what they're saying. You have to make that person understand that you are listening to what they're saying, so that when you respond, then they will take the time to try to listen to you. Now, sometimes they won't, because it takes two-way street to get it, but sometimes it doesn't. So what are you going to do to try to make sure that you're heard and that you are listening and that the other person knows that you're listening? Because if the other person just thinks you're trying to prove your point, they're not going to take the time to listen to you, because listening does make communication work. And if you want to save your marriage, you have to learn how to argue correct, and you have to be able to listen. See, communication is just not talking. It is actually listening. It is actually absorbing what the other person is saying and take it through, cycle it through your mind and your brain, and then come out with a solution that makes sense. Sometimes we just want to be so right that we don't make no sense. And then we don't understand why the other person ain't listening, because we ain't making no sense, because we know now that you are not paying attention. So you don't want to do that. So in this form of marriage and understanding marriage, and this goes for any communication, any relationship, it doesn't just have to be marriage. It could be friendship, relatives, siblings, just anything. And business partners, these are very important things. Our words kill. And that goes with communication and listening. We kill people with our words and wonder why we can't grow after we done killed them. And you know how you have that saying where it goes, if sticks and stones might break my bones, but words will never hurt me? That's a lie. The sticks and stones might break your bone, but words stick and never leave, and they will remember it till the day you go. So it's very clear. Sometimes you have to slow down, and it's not important to be having the last word. It's not important to always be correct. It's just important to let them understand that I understand what you're saying. But at the same time, I need you to understand what I am saying. And no, we're not going to agree, but we can come to a mutual agreement where we both are happy about what we're saying. And those are things that you really want to get in tune when you're in a relationship, especially to make your marriage build strong. You want to have a strong built relationship, and it has to be on a foundation that is, I'm listening. I'm understanding. I am you. You are me. We are one. We are one. Nothing can break who we are. And that is the cycle that needs to go on my end. So now that we are one, I have to listen to what my other part is saying. I have to understand what my other part is saying. And I got to make sure my other parts understand that I have that person's back. It works both ways for the man and the woman, and a woman and a man. Like, my daughter knows right now that I'm doing a video, but you can hear her tapping on the stairs because that's what she does. But she knows, and she knows it irritates me. But at the same time, when I freak out, then she's going to act like she didn't know. These are communications. So then I have to let her know that irritates me. Don't do it again, or there'll be consequences to your actions. These are things that we all know. So even though she might not agree with what I'm saying, she understands. Mom does not like that. She done told me 20 times. And if I do it again, there's going to be consequences to the action. And she doesn't care if I'm mad. And that goes the same when you're doing it with your husband, when you're doing it with your wife, your brother, your sister, your cousin, your uncle, your auntie, your mama, your daddy. Communication is a point. And the problem is, what makes communication so hard is that you can have one person with these rules and guidelines that I'm teaching you, but if the other person doesn't communicate it with you, then there's this era of lack there of communication. And I have grown up to realize I'm not always right, but I've grown up to realize that people are so busy wanting to be right, they will be wrong to be right. And when you catch them on being wrong, then they get mad. That's how ignorant, stupid, retarded, mentally deranged society has gotten us to be, that we rather be wrong than be right. We rather have our point be right, even though it's wrong. So it's like me saying, this is not a gray sweater. This is orange. And I'm going to argue and give you all kinds of wrong input just to prove that my shirt is orange, knowing darn well that I know it's gray or silver. Those are things I'm talking about. It's like we have to get out of that mindset of always wanting to be right that we're wrong. Like, so we no longer, the argument is no longer about the real cause, because we're going to bring and grab everything into this conversation that doesn't need to be there. And then we wonder why we're going crazy. Like, what's going on? Or why somebody's temper is so bad. But we prove that I will lie, I will steal, I will cheat, I will do all this just so I can be right. And when you're married, you're as one. So why are we doing that? Those are conversations that you should really think, like, why would, okay, we're married, I'm one. So if I win this fight, I still lost the fight. And if I lost the fight, I still won the fight. So there's no way out of that conversation. So why not understand, communicate, and be responsible and love each other by listening? And then once we listen, really listen and pay attention, and then have the right response. Respond correctly. And watch how you have less arguments because you now listen. So remember to love and live each day as if it were your last. And this is your Marriage Chronicles on Argument, Communication, Part 2. And it's not argument. So it's communication part 2. First was argument. Now it's listening. And have a blessed day. Smooches.